The autumn sun had sunk low on the horizon, casting a warm orange hue over the sprawling fields of Franklin, Tennessee. The Battle of Franklin was about to unfold, a fierce confrontation in the American Civil War. Among the Union troops stood an unlikely ally, King Kong, the giant gorilla, now clad in custom-made, imposing armor. Towering above the human soldiers, Kong exuded an air of invincibility that brought both awe and a renewed sense of courage to the men around him. His armor, forged from the strongest steel, glinted viciously under the fading light. Around him, soldiers whispered in disbelief, but soon focused on the task ahead as the Confederate forces began to march in. The Union Army, under the command of Major General John M. Schofield, had hastily constructed defensive works south of the town. Earthworks, trenches, and makeshift barricades littered the landscape. The Confederate forces, led by General John Bell Hood, were determined to deliver a crushing blow in what they hoped would be a decisive victory. The calm before the storm was shattered by the boom of artillery. Cannonballs whizzed through the air, crashing into the earth with frightening force. King Kong, towering above the battlefield, let out a thunderous roar. His immense fists, each the size of a human torso, slammed into the ground in response to the cannon fire. As the Confederate infantry began their advance, King Kong moved with surprising agility for his size. His role was not just as a warrior, but also as a living fortification. Kong used his massive hands to shield Union soldiers from incoming fire, his armor absorbing impacts that would have annihilated human bodies. With a swipe of his arm, he could knock troops off their feet, and his roar alone was enough to send waves of panic through the enemy ranks. Despite the initial shock of facing a giant armored gorilla, the Confederate soldiers pressed on. The fighting was intense and brutal, with lives lost by the minute. In the chaos, King Kong was a force of nature. His armor withstood bullets and bayonets, and his sheer strength was unmatched. Union soldiers rallied around him, pushing back the Confederate advance with renewed energy. By the night's end, the once green fields of Franklin were soaked with blood. Both sides suffered heavy casualties. In historical records, it's noted that the Union Army managed to hold their ground, forcing Hood's troops to withdraw. But in this reimagined fight, much of the credit would undoubtedly go to King Kong. His intervention was pivotal, turning the tide in favor of the Union Army. As dawn broke over the battlefield, the remnants of the Confederate Army retreated, marking the end of the bloody confrontation. The Battle of Franklin was a Union victory, and the legend of King Kong in armor became a tale passed down through generations. The image of the giant gorilla in gleaming steel standing amidst the ruins of battle was a symbol of hope and strength, an unlikely hero in a time of great turmoil.